To Christmas, that is the year 2021. A lot is happening. People are preparing themselves for the festivities. But besides that, Kenya is waking up to another reality that COVID-19 is not yet probably gone far away. And just tonight, the report is that 943 new cases or infections have been reported in the past 24 days. But tonight, our focus comes into education system in Kenya. On the panel, we are joined by Mr. Edgar Kosgei, who is a policy and a political analyst and our resident analyst on Power Brief on CAC TV. We're also joined by Mr. Bernard Musima, who is an educationist, a principal, Milestones Institute of Professional Studies, which is based main campus at Thika. We also have Mr. Frederick Sasia, who is a policy and a political analyst. My name is Cornelius Omuse, and I welcome you into this conversation that we're going to look into the history of Kenya's education, the current status, that is the CBC's stalemate, and the future of the Kenya's education status. Join this conversation, which is also live on our Facebook page, CAC TV Kenya. YouTube is CAC TV Kenya. Gentlemen, welcome to the show tonight.
Thank you very much.
Edgar, always on time. Mwalimu, it's your first time here.
Yes.
And also Mr. Sasia is one of us who've been here for some time. And before probably we go into our tonight's discussion, we really wish to look into this situation of infections. We had really gone very low to a point of reporting like 10 cases, 90 cases, 100 cases. But yesterday and today we are seeing another trend going very high to 943. Have we loosened the strictness or the caution that we are taking, or it's just maybe a strain that is coming forward? Beginning with you, Mwalimu.
Okay, thank you so much. I think people have relaxed, and also our politicians are contributing much. Because when they hold their rallies and there's a lot of gatherings, you'll find that there is likelihood of that disease spreading widely across the country.
Sure.
I think that is the contributory factor here, and also many people are negligent at the moment. You have seen even in transport sector, they have relaxed. They are not implementing Ministry of Health measures that were in place. And that is why we have this surge all of a sudden.
Thank you so much,
Yes.
Mr. Edgar Kosgei. You, the political class, you're the top on the list as you're vying for MP. Are you really considering the health of the people? Amani kind?
I want to apologize on behalf of other politicians because of what has been happening in the country. But I do not think that it is contributing so much to the spread of the virus, because even when there were these stringent measures of COVID mitigation rules, politicians were still going round and round the country. So for me, this is what I'm thinking, that it is the cold season first, and COVID thrives in the cold season. But right now in the country we have an outbreak of influenza, right? They call it influenza A, according to the Magazeti that we have seen, how it has been reported. So another thing is that there has been a lot of physical contact. How many people have you greeted, Omuse? As in shaken hands?
I don't shake hands nowadays. Even yourself, I didn't shake your hands.
Yeah, you did.
Yes.
But most of my friends now are shaking hands. We have stayed without shaking hands until now. I'm even scared of shaking hands, that when you give me your hand, I looked at you twice. People are hugging, all right? Many people hugging. So there's this contact, and there's physical contact, and people have relaxed. And maybe the variant that is there was the Delta variant. The Delta variant is still around, but still going around. There's now a new variant called Omicron, which is more dangerous and running very fast. So maybe these are a few issues, but scientists have not come out clearly to tell us that this is the behavior you have to stop as Kenyans. Yes.
Thank you so much. Mr. Sasia, if you have anything to say regarding whatever the upsurge of the infections.
Thank you, Mr. Muse, first for being on CAC TV. It's always a pleasure. But in regard to the issue of the COVID-19, we should not always be blaming the politicians, because every citizen in this country have dropped the guard. Walk in town and people are not using masks. We are waiting for the police to arrest us, and we are also not caring, because one, the police will always arrest you when you do not have a mask, but they will not control how you shake hands. They'll not control the family parties. They'll not control the weddings, the church. So everyone, including the church, have dropped the guard. Because nowadays you go to church and the 1 meter rule is no longer existing. People are celebrating in church without masks. People are in streets without masks. So everyone, politicians, citizens, family, we've dropped the guard. Then another thing that I would allude to is what my friend Edgar said. Also the climate or the weather condition for now, it's too cold. So probably from the science part of it, we expect COVID to spread highly this season as opposed to some few weeks ago. So it is a mixture of some other aspects, but generally I want to blame everyone, because including myself, nowadays when I came, I found myself greeting Edgar. You know, we've taken quite some time before meeting. So, and you sometimes forget, you know, greeting and shaking hands is an African culture. So when somebody comes and wants to move us from the culture, then at times changing your mind becomes a problem. You meet a guy you met some 2 months ago, you want to shake hands, then after shaking, then you notice there is COVID. So it's a matter of we've lost some confidence, we've lost some sense of taking care, but we need to go back and now just understand COVID is still with us, and if we don't take care, maybe we'll go back to where we started, where we'll be having some stringent measures and people are not moving, but we pray that we don't get back to the starting point.
Thank you, Mr. Sasia. Straight away to our tonight's topic, and this is all about the education status in the country, and we begin by what is happening currently. We've seen in the past few days, mwalimu, where students just wake up, those who are good wanaenda kwa principal anamwambia we just want to go home. Others who could not make it to express themselves that way have been deciding otherwise, to burn down the institutions, and then people are relating this trend with this issue of it is December, you know, with the social media or what, they can even peep through the staff room, they see good things happening during December, and it's not in their psychology that at this time they're in school, and then they resort into banning of the schools. Did we really invest a lot in preparing these pupils and students psychologically that during this season we shall be having these issues, so do not resort into doing whatever is happening right now? Let's begin from the person who handles students on a daily basis.
Thank you. On the issue of that rampant banning of the institution, I think our students were not well prepared, and the ministry actually had a strenuous calendar, academic calendar, and that one made students to feel like we are now very squeezed, and they were not taken to guiding and counseling process to prepare them psychologically. And so when they felt like we cannot now continue, they wanted at least a short time for recess, for them to go and relax their mind, maybe they reflect back and then they come back. That's why the ministry had to chip in and say now they will go for a break. Actually this year or this semester there were no break for the KSP and the KCSE student.
So it was a continuation.
It was a continuation, and all the schools they were to break on 23rd. You know, that's something that contributed to that. Yeah.
Moving forward, because I was trying to inquire from a friend who also is a teacher at high school, and he was trying to tell me that probably by the time these calendar reverts to where it were before, it might take, he was talking of around 2024, 2023.
Yes.
But before we get then, because it seems now the situation is a bit becoming complicated, what are some of these investments that we need to put into consideration to ensure that next year, as it comes a time as this, we don't witness fire all over, because the country already has a lot of problems to handle? So if students start training themselves into banning things right now, how do we stop these issues?
You know, the best way to analyze this person issue is date back, go to history. In 2019, we had more schools being banned than we are having now. So if you want to blame the COVID and the compacted academic terms, then we are losing the point. The issue here is we tend to have moved from our way of handling students. I'm a believer of the African culture where I believe of the African culture, and two, I believe in the Bible, where I believe you need to sometimes force things on students at a certain age. You cannot be understanding people who are teenagers. Teenagers sometimes will need some force. So when we introduce some Western culture where we say that you need to talk to students, then automatically you expect some cases of indiscipline. So for me, the solution, not really entirely, but I would advocate for the return of caning in schools, where maybe we need to control how we do it. But when we want to term normal discipline as a corporal punishment, that is where we lost it, because you look at what the students are doing. You know, during our time, there was no point to address the head teacher or any teacher. But right now, we are hearing students are walking to the staff room and telling the head teacher that we are tired, we want to go home. And now teachers don't have any option, but they grant them their wish. And that is where we've lost it. Let us now go back to allowing teachers to administer reasonable punishment to students who sometimes are going out of the disciplinary measures of the school. Second, let us also involve the society. Parenting was a societal thing, but we came somewhere and released parenting to only teachers and schools, and now that parents are not involved. And you know, yes, 80% of the students' time is spent in school with the teachers, but the 20% should be a very quality time with the parents. And we should also allow the society, because you might be a parent right now, you are here, you don't even know your son or daughter is. Allow even the neighbors to be parents to your kids. So this thing is more of a societal problem, that we've moved and allowed a lot of westernization, and now my generational parents believe that good care is when you don't punish, you don't cane your kid. But that is not good care. I believe in the care of our parents, where you were in a house that you believed was a military house. Anything you do wrong, you are whipped. So somehow you confine yourself to the system of discipline. But currently, you know, I'm talking as a victim. Just recently, Kaimosi girls, they wanted to ban a school, and teachers decided within an hour to send the students home. And it has taken 2 days before we were able to trace my niece, who have been supporting. She went and just got lost. And you know, such cases, you know, we are limited. A teacher cannot punish the student. A parent also, you are limited at how much you need to punish the student. Then who will teach these students manners? Then we let the world teach the students, because the Swahili say asiyesikia la mkuu vunjika guu, na what something then ufunza na ulimwengu. So let the ulimwengu teach them, but we are losing at the society and the parents.
Is the ulimwengu itself also, does it have morals? Let's get to this,
Omuse, right now there is a parent watching who has a bill of 30,000 shillings because some other student from another parent decided to ban the school.
Brother or sister from another mother.
Yes. And now the child is now being forced to pay a certain amount of money that he did not even think about it, that he did not even participate. He was just sent home. And it is so painful for the parents. Sase has talked about us going back to our roots and spanking our children. Think about it critically. Can it really happen in this day and age where children are being fed Cerelac? I do not think it can happen. Number two, we need to teach our children that there is a law. What has happened to children who have burnt schools? They are being jailed. They are being taken to court. They are not even being sent back to school. They are being sent to jail. And they have to be told that they lose their position at home because they are going to approved schools. And once your certificate has read approved school, once your certificate has read you have been jailed once for burning a school, who can admit you anywhere else? You know, another thing, our children need to be taught that you can be expelled from school. And that in our CBC time, to send a child from one school to another, you have to transfer the names, right? Yeah. Yes. So there is a code that you enter, and then you go and pick it from the other side. So when you're released from this side, you cannot be allowed to be on the other side. So our children have to learn that there are consequences.
So investments on deterrence.
Yes, kind of. Because as he said, pupils walk into the staff room nowadays and speak. Now, if they have that freedom of talking, then they can reason out. They can be told. You know, our teachers, they were bred using a cane, right? The way you've just said. So that is what they know. Our teachers should unlearn what we learned from our parents. My father was something else.
That's a good.
Yeah, I know. we learned the hard way. Dad anajua. Yeah. So I think he also grew up in that era. Our teachers need to unlearn.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Let me just say something before we close that. You know, we tend to be giving a lot of attention to these things and feeding them with a lot of things they don't understand. Take a Form 1 student who doesn't know something to do with employment, there's career in life, and you are telling them how you not get a good conduct certificate. They don't even understand what is that. You tell them how when your certificate is approved school, you not get, but they don't even understand. What they understand is, I am a Form 2 student and I am a senior student in this school. That's the language they understand. So when you start feeding them a lot of knowledge, start feeding them a lot of complicated things, they don't understand. These things you can only feed maybe to Form 4s and people are graduating to university, they understand. So somehow, let us mix what Edgar is saying with some bit of enforcement. You know, even at employment environment, you know, there are things like the show cause wise, there are things like enforcement. You tell employees that you are going to use masks, but you just don't leave it at that point. You enforce that if we find you without a mask, there is something we'll do for that. So let us also try to find a way that we can enforce these measures and discipline measures in schools. But saying you are talking to teenagers, my friend, we are losing the society. By the time we notice, we'll have lost the whole society.
Thank you so much. Mwalimu, you had an
Yes,
input?
at the modern time, parents have lost their sense of responsibility. One, they do not have time, they do not spend enough time with their children. Two, they do not instill discipline to them. I have met several students. Majority of them, even they have underwent rehabilitation, they have been there 2 or 3 times, but still the parents were not able to take control over them. And when they were brought to our institution, I usually take time with them. I talk to them. We have guiding and counseling department. So we keep on following the process of such students. And at the end of the day, majority of them have graduated and now they are working. So there's also negligence on the part of the parents. Yes.
Still on the part of the parents, Mwalimu, we look at it and I can see Edgar trying to show me some sign that bei ya mafuta ukiangalia saizi salad it's somewhere else. So it's forcing parents to work thrice
extra
on what they were doing before. Some are actually blaming it on hard economic times. And they say, if I don't do this, then watoto watalala njaa. So anatoka wakiwa wamelala, anarudi wakiwa wamelala, and the cycle continues.
Okay, the price of this commodity have not risen today or yesterday. The situation has been there since time memorial. Things have been keeping on increasing in the prices. But you'll find that there are some of the parents who actually take their time, maybe on weekends. They take their children out there, so they socialize with them. They offer some parental advice. But the majority of them, they don't even spend a single weekend with them. So there's no way a student or a child can learn something from their parents. You know, they are their guardians. They give direction. So that's why sometimes you find that majority of them, they are not doing well.
Thank you so much. We'll be having some input on that towards the end of the show. And it leads us to something else, a brief look into the statistics of Kenyans who have PhDs, Masters, Bachelor's degree, tertiary institutions training, and Form 4 certificate. Since independence, we first had the 7, 3, 6, and then we came to 844, then it has reverted to CBC. On a general outlook, beginning from Mr. Sasia, how has been the education intake in Kenya since independence?
You know, if you have to do a comparison, then I would say when we transited from the colonial curriculum and moved to the 844, somehow our academic status improved. So 844 has played a lot of justice. It has produced a lot of professionals because with 844, anyone after 844, the second four, you would juggle to any course and become a professional. So and that's why, for my sake, I have never seen the 844 system as a problem. I've always been advocating for just a change of it, like looking into it and doing some changes, but not really doing away with the curriculum. But the Kenyan education system has really grown because even currently you realize the introduction of CBC, it means we are improving and we are seeing the need of having an academic system that is also facing the reality of the current job market, the economic status. So we are growing, and as a country, given also things like the Vision 2030, you know, the education system has to change with the new environment and the new vision. So we're improving as a country.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mwalimu runs technical training college or institute. And looking into this issue, all of us, myself, I underwent the 844 system, probably you, and I guess also he underwent the 844 system of education. But conversations began coming on the way there on the need to do away with it. But I want to also get from him, he will first tell us the merits that the 844 had, and probably the demerits before, on the second part of the show, after the break, we now look at, did we really needed to do away with it, or we needed just to fine-tune some things in them?
Okay.
Your part.
Actually, 844, when it was introduced in 1985, the proponent had a good vision for that system of education. You know, they wanted a student to go for 8 years in primary, 4 years education in secondary, 4 years education in universities. And it emphasized so much on mathematics and English and vocational courses. And their aim was that after a student who is not able to advance to secondary education has been prepared maybe to take casual work, or can be self-employed, or seek other jobs out there. And then with the time, it became wanting. It wanted some change because now it focused so much on, it was exam-oriented system of education. Your success was determined on how well you passed the examination. And it did not care about your personal skills, which are very vital. And so there was need for the system to be changed. I think the introduction of CBC was timely, because now it shifted from
performance skills,
teacher-centered system of education to student-centered system of education, where now the student was to acquire skills, and the work of the teacher now was to monitor that progress. So there was it created now self-independence on the part of the system, and the teacher was also to make assessment. So it was very well.
Thank you.
Yes.
We, at the second part of the show, will be looking into this CBC in deeper details, and probably how have we really begun at the beginning stages, and also what needs to be fine-tuned, and if the elements of 844 can really help something here to put them together. Kosgei, briefly before we go for a break, your general outlook of the 844, some of the merits and probably some of the demerits that it had.
First, it is the responsibility of the government to make sure that we have very quality education. Article 53, 55 and 56 gives Kenyans every right to basic education. It has not gone upwards to secondary education or tertiary education, and that one has to be improved. Kenya has to come together with other international communities to look into the fact that we don't have access to education as a country because of many factors, like geographical, like early marriages, things that can be solved and then move forward as a country. This is very brief.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
We take a quick commercial break. When we return, we'll be now getting deeper into the CBC. That is what we have at hand. Its merits, the demerits, and probably some of the suggestions from our panels of what needs to be done or what can be done to ensure that indeed Kenya continues to be on the right path when it comes to matters education from the primary level, basic level, to the highest levels ever. Keep it here on CAC TV.
Here on Transforming Families, we offer guidance,
Whatever salary you have, you can still manage a family.
tackle matters viewed as difficult.
You mentioned that if you're not working as a guy, why then are you getting married?
If a man does not have money, then you're not romantic enough to be married.
Hard,
The people born in the 70s and 60s are the ones that have failed the current generation.
and confusing.
We are talking about the cerebral children,
Yeah.
the children who have been pampered. They are the ones who are not taking care of their own children when they give birth to them.
Creating stable families for a stable society.
Families are work, but you can work it.
All we want is the best for our families and for our families to be transformed and stable and strong together.
Transforming Families, Saturdays at 8 p.m. only on CAC TV. Experience Christian television like never before.
What are we called to do to transform the world, to make it more Christ-like, and ultimately to Christianize?
We are Christian professionals placed by God in our different spheres.
CAC TV brings you news,
Ulimwengu unabadilika kwa kasi na kila dakika ya siku kuna jambo unalopaswa kujua.
economic,
Ni mmoja tu wa wanabiashara ambao tumezungumza nao, mtazamaji.
health,
The egg from Kienyeji chicken is very good, and people know that.
Be rest assured that health is wealth.
faith, as well as national issues programs to nourish your heart, mind, and soul.
We can bring the change that we desire in our country.
We look into political and governance matters and current affairs matters with a third eye.
We are called to multiply disciples. So there has to be disciple makers, and there has to be people that are willing to be those disciples.
CAC TV brings it all to you.
God bless you.
Welcome back, and many thanks for tuning in to Public on CAC TV tonight as we look into Kenya's education as system. We have Edgar Kosgei, policy and political analyst, Mr. Bernard Musima, who is a principal of Milestones Institute of Professional Studies, and also Mr. Sasya Frederick, policy and political analyst, tonight on the show. Gentlemen, before we went for a break, we were looking into the CBC. That is a general overview and probably the motive, and you had actually spoken that it was time for this CBC to take over. But there have been complaints. In fact, today I saw one that when teachers set an exam or an assignment, they give the pupil, then the pupil takes it home, the parent does it, put it in the bag, then the pupil goes with it back to school. And they were saying, if there is anything that is shambolic when it comes to cheating, then it is the CBC. In fact, this one is open cheating. Let's begin from you, Mwalimu, whether such a things were considered during that process.
Thank you. I am a parent, and I have a grade 2 and 4 children. And actually, they are being given a lot of work, which they bring with them at home. But the role of the parent is not to do the work. It's just to guide them, show them how they are supposed to do. Especially, most of the things they do, it involves use of hands. So like knitting, washing their clothes, washing their shoes, and then you record, you forward to the teacher. Then when it comes to assignments like, let's say, social studies, English, mathematics, your role as a parent is just to assist that student or that child to understand how it's done. You can do one example, like I usually do. If it is English and there are some terminologies that she does or he does not understand, I help in defining to them so that they can be able to understand. Although many parents, they see that as a responsibility of the teacher, but actually we as parents also have a responsibility in assisting our students in learning.
Thank you. Mr. Sasha, still on that, Mwalimu has just mentioned the fact that after probably when the pupil or the daughter or the son are doing the knitting or the washings, he takes a phone and probably gets the photo or the video records. But again, there is this concern that how many parents across the Republic can afford, leave alone this smartphone, the other one, that one which we call Mulika Kabambe something or Mulika Mwizi. And two, they're even talking that some of these parents and their children, even affording a meal is a trouble. And they say that some of the materials that they need for CBC goes to tunes of even 1,000 shillings per day. Did such a matters get considered, and after a few years, how many or which percentage of people are going to be left out?
Omuse, when he was talking, I was shaking my head because I was wondering. You know, he's a teacher, and then he was saying he assists the kids on homework, he records. But I'm trying to imagine where Edgar comes from. Probably if you count the families that are neighboring, you might get over 80% of the parents around that region do not even know how to read, maybe. In our villages also, where I come from, where you come from. So when you expect this parent now to be the one guiding the student on an assignment, recording and sending to the teacher, helping, then what justice are you doing to the students and the parents? Then secondly, we also have to understand that an academic curriculum must also look at the effect of literacy of parents and their affordability, because you remember when Kibaki came in, he brought free primary education. Then CBC has come in, yes, still telling us it is a free primary education, but now you know if you have a student in grade 4 like Mwalimu here, you are paying more than the student who is right now in Form 2. So where's the affordability? Given that our parent, the economic status, people are struggling. So, you know, I tend to think and tell people that CBC is a complete hogwash. It's just a lie to everyone. We took it from the politicians. They overhyped it. Media came in and showed how good it is. But then look even at the creativity and imagination.
Not all media, because we are here. We are media.
Of
we are
course,
trying
the
to
media in totality. And then look at the creativity and imaginations we are giving our kids. You know, in the 21st century, where the world is going the techno-savvy direction, we are teaching our kids how to knit. We are teaching our kids how to create scarecrows. We are teaching our kids how to hawk sukuma wiki in sokonis. And then you're wondering, if this kid would be compared to a kid in Rwanda, who is now having a simulation of a laptop at class 2 or lower primary level, a kid in Japan who is now able to juggle around with small toys and something, where are we placing our kid? You know, in fact, I look at my daughter and I'm very sympathetic, because I'm wondering what kind of a person you're going to be in future. The academic system is doing a lot of injustice to you. It is teaching you the things I used to learn, but by the time I was learning them, people were still thinking that these things are now supposed to be phased out. Now the academic system that we think now is going to bring in creativity, that is going to promote the self-efficacy of the students, is now taking you back to imagining that creating a scarecrow is imagination. Then you ask yourself, these are skills we are impacting on the students. Where else after school will they be expected to create a scarecrow? Or let me just try to think, maybe they are trying to nurture the kid to try and create a robot out of a scarecrow. Is it really working? Let us nurture these kids, create imagination in the direction of innovation and invention. But these other things we used to do when we were kids, it was of our time. Because we could create a scarecrow to scare animals, not to feed on maybe our agricultural farmings. But you cannot right now teach a kid how to knit. We have machines doing we have technology has grown, the machines are doing the knitting. If anything, teach them how to operate the machines, how to service the machines, teach them computer. Let them be tech savvy. And let us forget this old school mode of teaching.
Thank you. Edgar, what Sasi has talked about is about technology versus what used to happen in the past. But again, my concern still remains on when you, the policy, whatever, the lobbyists were coming up with this idea, didn't you really have time to have the data to say that if we come up with this program in this direction, this percentage of pupils will be left out, this percentage of pupils will benefit. You see, at the end of it all, we have to look at the other time we are trying to save pupils, our children from West, that tumeenda paka university and then there are things we cannot do. But at this one now, did you factor the percentage of loss versus the gains?
First, you have to look at the reason why we're in court now. Do you know people in court concerning CBC? Have you taken time to look at the reasons why they're in court? Now, they wanted to approach it in a way that Saskia has been expressing, that parents are tired. Teachers are giving us homework as parents, but that one cannot hold water in court. So what law are you going to use? What is going to hold water in court is the process of coming up with CBC. Did you have an act of parliament when you were coming with CBC? No, you didn't. It was just a directive from the CS, which is usually a law too. It is allowed in law, but it is usually sent to Parliament to be ratified. Now, there are teething problems that have come. Mwalimu here has said that CBC is timely because 844 was too competitive. People used to look at how people are performing, but there were merits of 844 because if you go past Form 4, for me, in my school, I did power mechanics. I was already a mechanic when I came out of Form 4. There is someone who did electricity, who was an electrician. There are people who did accounting. I did power mechanics and accounting. So when I came out, I was ready to do that. So 844 had merits. But CBC gets someone to another direction, takes you slowly, drops things that are cumbersome to you. And as you climb that way, there are merits and there are demerits. And these are teething problems. And I think we should just move forward with it. We should only make sure that the country has enough teachers first. The teacher to pupil ratio. Imagine in the world system, in the UN system, it is 1 to 25. In Kenya, it is 1 to 50. The infrastructure of our schools is wanting. The classes, even he can tell you where we are coming from. We are trying to improve it using CDF. I think you have seen our MPs doing a very good job.
Not all.
Not all, yeah? Maybe I know what you're saying. The geographical disparity. Can you compare a school in Nairobi and a school in Turkana? No. Or in Baringo, where I come from, somewhere there. We are learning under trees. And also, teacher remuneration. Can you tell me a child who says, I want to be a teacher? It's terrible.
Thank you. Mwalimu, we come back to you.
Can I respond what my colleagues have said? Actually, the statistics that were done in 2019 by the Kenya National Bureau Standards showed that the level of literacy in the country has really dropped. And we'll find that the people holding like PhD, we have over 13,000 as we speak now. People holding masters, we have over 50,000. People who are holding like diplomas, over 1 million. People who are holding a certificate, we have over 6 million currently. And so you find that even when free and compulsory education was introduced into this country in 2002, you find that many people were able to go to to class and acquire basic education. So these children, they can be able to be assisted by their parents. And then the job market there, skilled labor is also required, not only white collar jobs. So these skills or these practical skills that these children acquire from lower level to tertiary education will be very much helpful to them.
Thank you. Still on you, when you look at the intakes that you usually have in your college,
yes,
there are different courses that these students comes to pursue. There are those ones probably who comes to do journalism, which myself I did. There's another one who comes to do something to do with electronics, another one who comes to do with probably engineering, different courses.
Yes.
And when you look at these people or these students, you realize that they had some background in high school. Kuna mwenye alifika form 3 akaenda physics. That's how they found their way into engineering. Another one picked agriculture. Probably they come to do a course to do with agriculture. In your own observation, having been in this field of education for some time, wasn't it really possible probably to just fine-tune, to narrow down that if you get to Form 1 at this level, you utakuwa umeona your strengths, and then now you decide, you say, I'm going to this route, instead of really doing away with this thing just like that?
Okay, in my opinion, I can say that at Form 1, majority of the students, they do not know what their career is all about. Majority of them tend to identify the career path in Form 2, and in Form 3 already they have selected these courses, so that they know this is my major area. And upon completion of the secondary school, I can now major in this field. Like I want to do now electrical and electronic engineering. He knows now in Form 3 I am taking physics. I want to pursue agriculture engineering. I want I will not drop agriculture. I will go with it. I want also to become, for example, a chef. In our times we had home science units. So those one, majority of them, they had to continue with them. So at Form 3, a student can be able to say, now I want to be this and this. Yes.
Before I get to the two policy and political analysts, at some point, Deputy President William Ruto, then he was the Minister of Higher Education, and he came out with a proposal. He talked of, let's try to fund science courses more and then do away with the arts. It brought a lot of debates, which up to today, I know in his heart he still holds that. And then when he rose to the position of the deputy presidency, he actually came very strongly to support the technical colleges. And you see the research program right now, you just pay something small, HELB is there to give you funding, and you just go to a technical college. And actually the intake of technical colleges have gone so high, because at some point there are those claims that the job market is lacking these people with the technical skills. I don't know how far the intake that you've been having, whether most youth are taking that path.
When it comes to funding, actually government has been funding students who are in public technical colleges and universities, both private and public universities. But it has not been funding private colleges. And that's a challenge, and we find it is discriminatory. Because my friend here, my colleague said that every child has the right to education, and that right is enshrined in the Constitution according to Article 253, as he said. You see, when now the government decided to fund students who selected public technical colleges and deny the rights now, the student who have joined public private TVET institutions, the funding is like it is discriminating on them. And so you find that now, that's why majority of the students will tend to choose public, and that's why you find it's overcrowded. And we'll go to most private institutions, we have few number of students, and they offer quality education.
Before we leave that part, I can go back to history, how these public-private partnerships between the government and the private universities came about. there are those lobbying, those also in politics, say this one and that
Yeah.
one, they know what it means. I don't know whether through your own umbrella organizations, if you've tried to do such a petition to the ministries to see that as you're doing this to these ones who are the university, it's also time that we, the colleges, feel we should be doing a partnership so that if someone picks Milestones Institute of Professional Studies and wants to be there, it's a private institution, yes, but this person can be admitted there and being funded by the government. I don't know whether you've done the lobbying.
Actually, there's been many attempts by the Association of Private Colleges to persuade the government to fund even private TVET institutions. And as we speak now, the government has not paid heed to our cries, and we are still urging them that what you do to the students who have joined public TVET institution should also apply the same to students who have joined private TVET institutions.
Many thanks, Mwalimu, on that. Finally, we get into university education. A few days ago, we began by Moi University. We saw it was all over in the dailies talking of it is broke, bankrupt. There was strike and even people went home. Few days again, it came to Jomo Kenyatta. Egerton is also in that list. We had also Jaramogi Oginga Odinga being mentioned somewhere, and so many others. And when you talk to most of the staff in these public universities, they'll tell you, here is just a ticking bomb, or we are just playing underwater, but things are not okay. Are we killing the university education in Kenya by ourselves? And then two, who is this to blame? We saw in Moi University, names of politicians were all over in the air. And when it came to JKUAT, someone was asking now, is that
the
politician?
Arabs on the other side too.
That's what yeah, it was really so loud.
Truth be told, this is Kenya, and when something happens down there, when you mention it's Arab Coast Gay, was thrown there, then you have to come to Nairobi and also say it's Arab Coast Gay. Yeah, we have to. We should not play politics with our institutions. First, I want to say that 5% of Kenyans have degrees. It's despicable. 5% of Kenyans have gotten to that higher learning. 5% of Kenyans is, if you do it with 50 million, that's 2.5 million Kenyans. We still are at our lowest, yet our universities are going down the drain. Who is to blame? Number one, if you look at the balance sheet of our universities, you'll realize that they are borrowing more to build infrastructure. And when it gets to paying, they do not know how to balance on how to pay. Take, for example, Kenyatta University. The infrastructure is breathtaking. Yet when Olive Mugenda left, they were grappling with how
Professor.
to...
Don't forget that professor.
I can repeat.
Yeah.
I respect that lady. You know why? She balanced money coming in, money going out, and development. Now, when she left, then we had problems. Our JKUAT and Egerton and Moi University, unfortunately, fell. That's why school fees is being increased in every university, but also help has to be increased by what percentage? So close to 200%, so that we can have this balance. And the government has to look for a way in which to raise help and to fund our pupils so that we can have enough money in our universities. Otherwise, we are losing our schools. Yet we should have free primary, free secondary, and free university. That's when we will talk about compulsory degree for anyone vying for any seat or going anywhere. Now we can't talk about it
Which it was actually quashed.
Because it is expensive, Omuse. How much is a parallel degree in this country?
Close to $1 million.
Close to, let's say per year, it's close to 300,000. How many of you can afford 300,000 per year? University is for the rich. And if you have $500,000, then you can go to school. Education in Kenya is not an equalizer. We have been saying education is an equalizer that will bring us to the same table with the people. No, I refuse.
We'll come into that. It's a very interesting part. In summary, Mr. Mr. Sasias, you'll be making your parting shot. What do you think is actually finishing our university education? From you, we'll now be doing a parting shot to the stakeholders. We are going to 2022. He's vying for MP. I don't know what is Mwalimu vying for, any other person here. We will not, myself and other people. Maybe he has an ambition, we have an ambition, or any other person here, we are not so sure. But don't we, is it time to have this discussion also featuring prominently in the aspirants as we move forward?
First of all, let me just say something about this issue of funding and degrees. You know, this country has always lost it when we put a lot of money in funding universities as opposed to technical vocational institutions. You know, we need skills in this country. But why are we looking at it like we need a lot of managers in this country? Who are they going to manage? Look at countries like India, Japan, look at countries like Israel. They've put a lot of money in technical training, more than what they've put in universities. The reason to this is because you really want to have a lot of technical people than the people you have, the degree holders in a country. And even if this technical person moves to be a degree holder, the skill alone is very important to the country. But you know, we've lost it because in this country you want a plumber and the job description is you must have a degree. You want a mason and you're saying a person who has done structural engineering. Then you're wondering, are we really in our senses or we are sick or something? Because you know, we are talking about education. 844 previously, we used to have home science, agriculture, whereby by class 8...
As you sum up, Mr.
Yes. By class 8, you could have masons, you could have chefs, you could have those old people. Those were skill-based. But when we came up with degrees, then people came in corruption. They noticed that you can make money out of universities. That's how universities are collapsing. And then one key thing that has led to most universities collapsing is the directive by the ministry to remove the parallel program. You know, we must admit that running a university is very expensive. Then we need to leave the freedom of at least having a balance between the government-sponsored and now these people are coming in parallel so that an institution can balance its funds. But you know, you depend on the government, which will always delay to release funds, and at times release little funds that cannot even run the institution, but you still want to pay the staff, you still want the students to learn learning material. It is too expensive. In the next few years, we are not going to have any serious university in this country. They'll all have collapsed.
Thank you so much. Mwalimu, in the next 50 seconds, 30 seconds, your parting shot to all stakeholders as we move to a new year as far as education standards is concerned, in a few seconds.
The government needed to adequately fund our technical colleges because their work is to complement the government. They need also to make sure that they fund universities, and they should come up with the policies whereby they select some universities, and those universities now they offer high-level research and also training undergraduates, so that others which are not offering technical college, they should also be funded, but not much like those which are doing much research.
Thank you so much. In a few seconds, Kosgei.
A few seconds. This is what I can just say. I'll bring a policy for free primary, secondary, and university education once elected.
Thank you very much. Those are three gentlemen who've helped us tonight to take a break from politics. Mr. Edgar Kosgei, Mr. Bernard Musima, and Mr. Frederick Sasia, who've indeed helped us to discuss these matters to do with education. We took this day purposely to discuss these matters because we know that education really defines the path that any country can take and also the stability. We appreciate your comments and also your participation on this show. Power Brief takes a break from next week till a new year when we shall be back after Christmas festivities. We pray that God will keep you till we see each other next year. From me, Cornelius Omuse, and all who have been making this production a success since 2019 to where we are, I really thank you for being supportive to us, even as we purpose and desire to see the new year together. I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy 2021. Have a very good night.